Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And I help people with other things that are going wrong, limited beliefs, roadblocks. You're stuck, I can help you. Today we got a live stream today. It was spontaneous, unannounced, like most of my live streams. And it's a really interesting topic. And I was having my morning coffee and my breakfast this morning, and I was thinking about this. What happens when you die? And I wrote Raymond Moody because if you want to go down this rabbit hole on YouTube or Google, just type in Raymond Moody, and he's a good source for... What's up, Johnny? You picked a good one to jump on. I hope you're well in New Jersey, bro. So this is something, you know, we have all these options, right, with YouTube and Google to research just for fun, right? And some people like different topics, but this is one of those topics that you might be surprised that I've looked at again and again. What happens when you die? And I'm not particularly worried about it. I don't have this high spiritual religious belief of I know what it's going to be. It's just intriguing to me to listen to people that have researched it. And so years ago, when I was in college, one of the places I used to like to go is a library. I don't know what that is. I'm a highly social person, but when I want to concentrate, I like the quietness of a library. And sometimes in between study breaks, I'll just walk around the library and kind of look to run into different books. And I think probably, I would guess libraries aren't as popular as they used to be because the internet is the ultimate library. But I came across this book, and I can't remember the name of it. But basically, this guy had died for 40 plus minutes, flatlined, right? So this intrigued me. I opened up the book. I took a look. I read pretty much most of the book. I put it back, and it was just one of those topics that was interesting to me. And later on, you know, from time to time on YouTube and whatnot, I'll go and look at what happens when you die or if this topic comes up. And so this Raymond Moody guy or character has done extensive 30 years of research on the topic. And I find it to be incredibly... Wow, that's crazy. Oh, Johnny says, I was just thinking the other day of how can I get my mind to not fear death and accept that it will eventually happen. Well, something led you to this live stream, my friend. So if you look up Raymond Moody, like I said, he's an older gentleman. He's a doctor. And what he did is he's made it his life's work to interview people that have basically died and came back to life, right? We talk about resurrection and all these other things, but basically people that have passed away and came back, right? And this has happened a lot, right? Because we have the heartbeat machine, and I don't know what that's called. Sabina, help me out with that, hon. Where people flatline, right? They actually died. They died for 10 minutes. They died for 20 minutes. I believe there's an old movie called Flatliners with Kevin Bacon, too, that talked about people who were experimenting with this in med school. It was a fictional movie, though. Anyhow, what happens when you die? I'm going to do another video on this. It's not going to be a live stream. I'm going to get deeper on it because I think it's just such an interesting topic. Because is it man's greatest fear? I would say for me, personally, no, it wouldn't be. But what happens when your relationship died? Notice I didn't say it was dying. There's a difference, right? Past tense here. So if you look up Raymond Moody, here's what you'll come up with. He's interviewed, I believe it's in the thousands. I could be wrong. But countless people that have died for 5, 10 minutes to 20 minutes. I think the record's 40 minutes for someone, and come back. And a lot of their experiences are similar. They're not the exact same, but they're quite similar. So if people are coming up with similar experiences, describing similar events, then more than likely it's not a figment of their imagination. But who knows? This is one of those things where you could do research, you can interview people, but there is chance involved, there is opinion involved, there is interpretation involved. So there's no way of saying that this is 100% true. That being said, what I like to encourage people to do is whenever you have the opportunity to come up with an interpretation of something, how's it going to best serve you? So to me, the interpretation that these people have come up with Raymond Moody, and Raymond Moody said there were some people that had died and came back and seen some dark shit and was scared. But a majority have had this happen. They say that your life lines up sequentially. I believe it's in order. And it's all your life events and moments. And I think it was described by one person like Minority Report. And I don't remember that movie specifically, but it's like this giant screen or picture of all these different moments. But within these moments, you actually feel each moment and you feel how you affect others in the moment. So this might be a little deep. People might be going, where are you going with this? This is a breakup channel, right? But my point is, my point is, we're having some difficulties with the live stream, it says here. If this is true, let's just say this is true, where when you die, your soul leaves your body, and that you see this review of your life. You see everything that you've done in your life, every moment, and then on top of it, from the way these people recollect it, is you get the feeling of each moment and the feeling of the others in the moment. And so I remember reading the book of the guy that died for 40 minutes actually was struck by lightning. I'm not joking. Okay? And he said that there was moments where he felt like going back, he could see all the times that he hurt people and how much of a jerk he was. He said he was a bully when he was young, and he could really feel these things. And the conclusion people get is, number one, don't be scared of death, because for a lot of people, they say it's a great feeling. They feel loved, they feel connected, they feel safe. Number two, everything that you've done over your life gets reviewed, and that's really when you're at a point in your life where you feel like you can see your body of work, so to say, right? Now, what if you do this when you have a relationship, right? I think what happens with people when your relationship or your breakup happens is you don't review everything that happened and look at how you made them feel or they made you feel. You more or less look at what you want. I want them back. I want them to change. Or you have some self-deprecating events where you kind of put yourself down and take blame. But you don't look at the whole picture and go event by event. And this is why I always encourage people to write out their story, because you got to map out the moments. And so going back to what happens when you die, I think that this would be an interesting way that life ends. And if you are, and by the way, this was kind of sparked by the fact that I recently had a client that told me that they were a drug addict from age 15 to 18. This came up in our live coaching session. And this is a really good guy and everything like that. And he was just like, yeah, I had a drug problem when I was 15 to 18. And so I said, how did you come out of that? well, you know, this, that, and the other. And then we talked a little deeper. Basically, he died for a few minutes. He was under. And he said he could see his body and he could see his dad. I might have him on the channel. I might have him on a live stream in the future. And he basically said that, you know, this was one of those things that turned everything around for him to quit doing drugs. Now, he didn't say he had the life review. He didn't say he had the life review, but he did say that he came out of his body and he could see his body down below. Eduardo Martinez, thank you for sending the $19.99. It is always much appreciated, and you're always welcome on the channel. I think we're having some delays on the live stream. It's going to get a little frustrating for me because it keeps coming up to the live stream. Let me know if you guys are, if it's coming in or if it's delayed for you. Because this is one of those topics I really want to get into, but it keeps telling me that the live stream is not have enough bit rate, which is fucking annoying. So, to be clear, to be crystal clear, I'm not talking about life after death. I think that's a different topic for a different show. And what I'm talking about is more or less that these are experiences that people have documented with like I said, Raymond Moody. Like I said, if you watch an interview by him, he seems very genuine, authentic. He's excited about the topic. He's not trying to sell anything. He does have a couple books, which academics always do, and he's an academic. But he's not pushing his book, right? If you see him in interviews, go down the Raymond Moody rabbit hole, and he's quite believable in the sense that he's interviewed these people, right? He's a credible source in my view. And I just find it really interesting that these people have similar things happen, and they say when that happens, it's actually a very glorious and happy thing. And then if you go down the YouTube rabbit hole, you'll see countless interviews of people that have died and came back 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes later. And a lot of them talk about floating out of the body. A lot of them talk about feeling more connected to human beings. One of the other things that's really interesting, and Raymond Moody mentions this, is that people realize after the fact that they should be more kind, more understanding, and more compassionate to their fellow human beings because we're all connected in more ways than you can believe. And you realize that once you've died and came back to life. And you know what? We hear about this, right? That we're all connected and whatnot. We hear about this all the time. But he says, but the interesting thing is people will come back to reality and they say they know this, but actually in some cases for them it makes it more difficult because they realize even though they know that they should be more understanding and compassionate and kind to other people, they still get angry when someone cuts them off in traffic and they want to deck the guy. So they say that, in other words, they know that, unconditional love and kindness and compassion is the way that leads the day, and this is what humans are meant to be, and ... But even when they come back and they face reality of the world, they still get pissed off sometimes. They still get angry, and they still, might do some mean things. But I have heard other people that say it was an absolute turning point in their life to be more kind, be more giving, and get back to loving relationships. One guy that was interviewed was going on and on about how much he realized he needed to spend more time with his family. So I think that when we look at this, if this is, let's just say this is true. Let's just say that this is most likely true because so many people have said that basically that, 10, 20, 30 minutes of passing away, They go to this place and they see every event of their life. Now, I've taught a class called public speaking for a few years, more than a few years, at a university. And basically, I taught students to give speeches such as the same style of TED Talks. Have a few facts, have a point, and tell a really good story. And one of the best, what I would do is put together my own speech or public speaking. We'll call it a speech. I don't know if I like speech. Speech seems like it's so political. I don't know if I feel like I'm giving a speech to a class of 35, 38, but I guess we can call it that, public speaking, whatever. And one time, I gave them a timeline of my life. And I thought about this before that, have you ever done this? Because that's what they're saying, what happens to you when you die. There's a timeline of moments and memories in your life that flashes through when you make the feelings. And so I started off with, I'm born 1981, February 1st, Redwood City, California. And then I went, I had my first day at kindergarten. Now, I'm not one of those people. I got a great memory. I know there's some people out there that remember when they were like 2 years old, 3 years old. I don't. I don't know when I first had my first memory that I can remember, but my memories start at like maybe kindergarten or my first bike. So I started with those things. And my point of the speech was to show these people in their early 20s that your life is going to be up and down. And I didn't realize how much that's true until I made this map or this timeline of my own life. And I basically went through it, and it's probably for another show, or I might do it on a whiteboard in the future because it's hard to explain without showing it. But I went through my life, and I left some things out, by the way. There's only so much transparency, right? You're like, the older you get, the more transparent you get. What do I mean by that? The more you just don't give a shit about what people think of you, which is more and more secure, right? For some reason, as a teenager, your early 20s, you seem to be locked into what people think a little bit more, right? And, your grandparents are, they'll say whatever the hell they want in most cases. So, anyhow, I went through this timeline of my life, and you just realize how many times you've been up and how many times you've been down. And I wonder if when you die, if this is true and you have this moment where you see everything. But the difference is from the interviews of people and the way Raymond Moody describes it is you get a deep feeling. You get a deep feeling of those moments, whether they were really good, excited, and if you made someone else feel really good, or if you hurt someone really bad. It has no difference. Could you imagine going through a review like that? I have to be honest. There would be some events, there would be some times where I would feel, I wasn't that good a guy. There's got to be some moments where you're looking at that review of your life and you're like, damn, I did that, or I said that. I feel like, but most of these people say because they all come back, right? There's no way to tackle this question without interviewing people that have come back. We can't go and, to the graveyard and go, I'm going to interview, John Jones, who passed away 30 years ago. And I guess there's mediums and things like that, but it just doesn't line up the same as a live person. And so I wonder if people could relate this to their breakup. When you get to a point where you realize, wow, my relationship flatlined, it's done. The heartbeat stopped. Because a lot of times people out of a breakup, the heartbeat's still there. Your relationship might be on life support even though you're not living together. You feel like we're still connected. We still talk on the phone. We still exchange text messages. You get a couple moments where you realize they still care about you, right? But when you get to that real point where you're done, where you realize the relationship is just like, we're done. Like, we're really done. Like, there's no coming back to this. But I would add, I don't know if that's always possible. Because the difference between dying is there's a strong possibility of you not getting a second shot. And if that happens, right, then there's nothing else that you're attached to or you're hanging on to. But the thing is, with a breakup, I think that as long as that other person's alive and you're alive and you had moments together, it's really hard to just go, we're done. There's always this little inkling of a possibility of you getting back together, of you maybe running into each other, or you getting a call one day or calling them. Because it's not over, because you're not over. They're not over. But when does it really become over, I would say? Here's the thing. I believe that most people, if you went to them and you went, your 5-year high school sweetheart that you were with, till you were 25 or, 23. When did you know you were over him? Or when did you know you were over her? A lot of people would say, I don't know. I just remember being sad for a long time, and then I just got on with it. A lot of people will tell me, because I'll ask people that have come out of a bad breakup, like, what was your turning point? When did you get to a certain point? I want to know. People don't usually have a date and a time like death. Birth and death have a date and a time, start and end, definitive, right? Breakup doesn't go, you might have broke up on this day, but the day that you feel like, I'm 100% better, I'm 100% done, I don't know if you get that. It's always kind of lurking or lingering. Now, one way that enhances you to do this is you meet someone else. You fill the void. You meet someone else. Another way, you move into a completely new environment with a new job, new surroundings, and you have nothing to remind you of them. Because the most difficult breakups for a lot of people are when you are in the same life, living in the same house, with the same job, with the same habits, only you don't have your girlfriend. Even if the relationship wasn't great, you're missing a piece of what you've had for 3, 4, 5 years. And I'll tell you what it is. It's familiarity, and it's the power of being able to predict better. What do I mean by that? When you're with your girlfriend or boyfriend, and this is only applying to long-term relationships, 5, 6, 7 years, maybe 4 years goes in there now, you can predict a lot of stuff. You might not always be correct, but you know them. There's comfort in that. There's a lot of comfort in that. And that comfort, a lot of times, is what we chase out of the breakup. And I was just looking back at this recently myself. I was thinking to myself, so I was writing some things out about this topic. And what I think I'm going to do with this topic, I'm going to make a really high quality video that unpacks this a little bit better and gets a little deeper, because I think it's an interesting parallel. But I looked back at my past relationships after writing out some of this stuff, and I thought to myself, let me rate these. Let me go through and name the person I was with, put her name down, and then write good parts, bad parts. Right? Good parts, bad parts. Because it looks like this life review that's possible when we die, and I'm saying it's possible. I think that it's certainly one of those things that this Raymond Moody character interviewed enough people and seems legitimate that he's not taking this angle in any way to gain power. What if we do a relationship review? I don't know if we can map out all the moments. My memory's pretty good, but it's not that good. But what if I did a relationship review where I just go, what's the good parts and the bad parts? What's the good parts and the bad parts? The surprising thing is when you come up with the bad parts, and sometimes you think, that one was petty, or that was really bad. And then you find out, actually, when you write out the good parts, you can find out what your type is or what you're attracted to. Because a lot of times, if you've had 3, 4, 5 partners, you can kind of see where it lines up. The first thing you write or the second thing you write is probably one of the most important things to you. Because I know it came up for me. Lemon seed in there. I'm appointing you as my relationship power of attorney. Well, I'll take the job, Chuck. T-Mac, I hope you're good. Sleep perler. Sometimes these are tongue twisters. Is the nearest thing I've had to experiencing the other side. What was it like, T-Mac? Did anyone else have an experience where they went under? The only thing I can think of in my head was when I was probably like 5 or 6 years old, and I don't know what happened. I fainted, and I just woke up on the couch, and my mom thought some kid hit me with a rock out because I was out in front of my house. I just fainted. I think it was a hot day, but I don't know why. And I just woke up on the couch and didn't remember where I was. But I guess to be honest, there's been a few other moments where I've woken up on a bed or a couch and didn't know how I got there or where I was. But that had to do with probably my own demise. I'm just laughing to myself because I think, oh, yeah, I fainted. I didn't know where I was when I woke up. I guess we create those moments ourselves with alcohol sometimes. But, yeah, I'm curious. Clutch, you mentioned earlier, I've been in a coma before, not something I ever talk about much, but I stopped believing in God after that. Why would that be? I'm just curious. How's the stream coming in? It keeps telling me the connection's bad. Just let me know. But, yeah, this is one of those topics that I've looked into on and off through the years, and it's really interesting to me. But if it's true that we have this life review, because I've often said to people, if you could have a video camera on you all the time during your relationship, I think a lot of times or especially, I talked about this before, the show The Nanny that used to be on with this British nanny used to videotape parents with their kids, and parents would cry watching how they would talk to their kids because they were literally unaware. From what I understand, it's similar to Alien Abduction. Feel like you're lying paralyzed in your bed halfway between awake and asleep. For me, I'd feel the presence of pure evil that made my skin crawl. Wow. Time just skipped. No black light, no out of body. Just closed my eyes and woke up in a different time. The stream is fine. Clutch, how long did you have a coma, if I may ask? And what, if it's not too private, what made you go into a coma? Once I felt the present press up against me from behind and started speaking what I felt was an ancient language like Sumerian. Wow. You know, one thing that I know that a lot of people mention after breakups, and I know it happened to me, not a lot, but dreams, which we all dream, but we don't remember them, or really we make a choice not to remember our dreams sometimes. People always go, I've had a lot of dreams recently after a breakup. And I remember I had one specific one after a bad breakup. And I had one, actually, now that I think of it, I had one post-breakup that was probably like, I don't know, 6 or 7 months after my breakup, 5, 6, 7 months. And I had moved to a new city, had my own apartment. And I had this dream about my girlfriend, and we had broken up. We hadn't talked in a while. We were on good terms. It wasn't one of those crazy, you know, I miss her so much. I had a girl I was seeing in between, so it wasn't so bad. Anyhow, I had this dream about her. I don't remember the specifics, but I do remember, this is something people don't talk about. After the dream, I think within 5 to 10 minutes, she called me or she texted me. I think it was a call, and we hadn't talked in a long time. That kind of stuff happens a lot. You know, this idea that we're all connected and that this comes up over and over and over again. And it's pretty interesting, right? It's pretty interesting. I think that when people say these things, it doesn't become real until you hear a real story, right? From someone else. And when you hear the stories, the question is do you believe them or not? Do you believe what they're saying, right? Or do you believe like this person's a credible person that's telling a real experience? But it would be refreshing to know that, you know, when you pass away, that it's a good experience. And from what this Raymond Moody guy said, a lot of people would say it's a positive thing, and the other thing he said is they're no longer scared of death, that they're actually fine with it, and when it happens, they almost welcome it. Like I said, that being said, though, there's a few people like the great T-Mac over here that maybe had, well, you didn't have where you went under, but that they saw dark demons or dark things. So not everyone had the same exact experience, but for the most part, people had this life review. It's kind of funny if we had a future application that could do this. Yes, that I will agree with. I don't fear death after that experience. Interesting. I don't fear death. I think the fear is more about how you would die. Right? Like if there was a struggle, right? I think that everyone would prefer to die in their sleep, not to speak for everyone. Not to struggle. They had this, this is one of those things, I don't remember the source, I don't remember the specifics, but basically there was a woman that had some kind of mental damage. I don't know if it was a car accident or what, but it affected her having any sort of feelings. And this has happened multiple times in history. There's another guy named Pincus Cage. Clutch, you have pretty good world knowledge. I have the book somewhere. Basically, this guy had a railroad rod go through his skull, and he lived. This woman, I'm not sure what happened to her, but they had similar cases. And they basically developed no feelings. So like probably like a psychopath. They had no feelings. They were highly erratic. People had trouble interacting with them. But this one woman, the woman, and like I said, I wish I had more specifics on the story. This woman, they were testing her out. She had no feeling. She had no fear of anything. She had zero fear of anything. And she didn't really show pain. And then they did some kind of experiment where she couldn't breathe, and then she screamed. That's interesting. I think it was in the book Breath by James Nestor, I think. Or Breathe by James Nestor. So what they were saying is that's the one, I guess, holy grail human thing is breathing, which makes sense, over all other things. And one of the greatest fears is to drown, right? Multiple life-saving surgeries, cardioversions, angios to stop my heart cast, sensitive biopsies, broken elbow that lodged up in my bicep. I think those are times I went under, physically anyways. Chuckster. I don't have a lot of time left on the live stream because I got a call in a little bit, a live coaching session. But damn, Chuckster, we're going to have to unpack that sometime. That's interesting. That's interesting, man. Yeah, I've just come to the realization the last couple months in doing this, and I could only imagine people that are like 30-year psychiatrists, people like Jordan Peterson that have talked to people about their problems for so long. I've been doing it 3.5, 4 years maybe. And people get into other stuff than their breakups all the time. Because your life is these series of events that are all connected. So you just realize, and I'm sorry to be redundant and say this again and again, everyone's got some shit in their life, man. And the funny thing is the people that might have had some of the worst stuff happen, you'll never know. And you'll think, what's this person's problem? Why are they such a jerk? Why are they such an asshole about this? Why do they have no patience? You'll never know because it's way too deep. And if they haven't done some therapy or worked with a coach or done some spiritual work, what have you, they'll never know either. They just go around reacting to everything. But when you get really deep, with people and they pull out somewhere out of there, like you're like, what? Like this guy I was just talking about earlier, I believe he's 25, 26, cool dude, everything like that. And and then he's like, yeah, from 15 to 18, I was hooked on ice. I was like, really? That's a 3-year stretch at 15 years old. And I mean, I've never done that drug, but I've seen people on it before. It's wicked, man. It's wicked. And I don't mean that in a cool way. I know Canadians say wicked meaning cool, or Bostonians. And you did it for 3 years, and it's highly addicting. Guess what got him off of it? Like I just said, not a near-death experience. He actually died for a few minutes. Chuckster. Yeah, we're going to have to unpack your stuff soon, Chuck. Do some hypnotherapy. Get in there and dig out some of those roots, my friend. I think might be for another show, another time. But if the traumas are there, what's the best way to get rid of them? Can you get rid of them, or can you just become at peace with them? This is what I've been kind of off the live streams recently. I've been playing more with going into hypnotherapy because I want to find a way to help people deeper. Let's find a different modality than just talking about it. Oh no, Laffy Quince is AKA Aleph. You're a little late, but we got about 10 minutes. Do you know what happens when you die, Aleph? Do you have an outlook on that? Do you have an opinion? The interesting thing about a topic like that, right? We can interview people that have died for 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes. We can get their experience, but there's no way of documenting it, right? There's no way of documenting it. So, the great all this research and scientific research, Chuckster said lots of cats, Aleph. Probably you go to cat heaven. Jeez. It'd be interesting, though. Whatever things are true, noble, pure, lovely, whatever of good report, meditate on these things. I think it's blackout because dead man tell no tale, isn't it? I don't know. Like I said, if you look up Raymond Moody or some of these other books on it, and some of these other people that have went under it, a lot of them say that they had a reflection on their life, and it's all mapped out. This is a repeated thing that people say happens again and again. And there's also the floating over the body that they feel. They can see everything that's going on. So I do believe your thoughts aren't all in your mind. I think that you tune in and pull thoughts from some kind of other source. That's maybe for another show too. Probably like when you die, it's like movie repeating what you've done in your life. Well, that's what I'm saying that people have said. I haven't spent much time thinking about it. I've spent the last couple of years, and years ago I read a book about it. But like I said, it's interesting that we don't do that when our relationship dies. Or I'm asking everyone out there, is that something that you do when it's really over? When you're really done with your breakup, do you start reflecting on all the moments? Because when you break up initially, I don't think that's what happens. I think when you break up initially, you think about what you want. You think about if you want them back. And let me add, there's a lot of people out there that don't just want their ex back. When you get down to talking to them, they want validation. They want their ex to come back to their door crying so that they could break up with them. Vengeance. They want money because they don't have a lot of money. I mean, there's other things that they want out of the breakup that they were getting. But when you really look at it, right, it's not always the same thing. But how many people go through the breakup and start going, good moment, bad moment, we did this. And I've had that happen recently, and this is what sparked that. I just was like, wow, I started going through the moments. And then that's when you feel like, wow, you're really over this thing. MC from England, no one who dies doesn't actually survive. Death is absolute. No brain activity may be near death. Okay. Isn't it? So you would not recognize. You would not recognize if someone. This is a good question, MC. If someone heart stops, because this would be the measurement, right? If your heart stops, and we have a machine to measure that, right? And this is why I'm saying this. You can be put on a breathing machine. My sister was kept alive for like a week on a breathing machine. Her heart was beating. She was brain dead, right? So is she dead? And her body's still alive? I don't know how that works. But she wasn't going to be coming back brain-wise. Now, by the way, if anyone's wondering why that was, she was a donor. So my mother specifically chose to let that happen so that they could find donors for all her organs. That might be for another show, another time. But okay, I believe you, MC. I'm not identity statement. I'm a clinic. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong, right? What I am saying, though, is, so what is it? Is it that if someone's heart stops beating for 10 minutes, which has been documented before, right, or flatlined, does that mean they don't qualify as being dead and coming back to life because they came back 10 minutes later? This is a fascinating set of physical and emotional traumas can be quite different in certain circumstances. Me and Danny would like to get there and jump in this topic, Mac. We'll talk about it again. I'm Aleph, if you want, I'd like to do a better video on this and maybe cut some things, and we'll talk about that later. I once saw a quote that the world's preeminent brain specialist said the brain was a machine that was designed for a ghost to operate. Huh. Yeah, but MC, let me go back to that original question. Are you saying that if someone's heart stops for 10 or 15 minutes, that they didn't die? What would you call that? Wouldn't it be considered someone died for 10 minutes and came back to life? I'm not going to say it's resurrection, but again, this is a choice of interpretation. Organs can survive with artificial help. Yeah, I'm aware of that. For me, the body is just a machine for your spirit to ride around in and operate in the physical world. I will share this. This might be interesting to some people. Help me by marking time for me when you want. Well, I'll schedule some time, bud. Keep in mind, Aleph's English is his second language. Yes, it's clinically death with no brain activity. Clinically death with no brain activity. Have you ever witnessed, MC, anyone or talked to anyone that's had that happen and they came back in your experience? Okay. Mm-hmm. I would say this. If anyone's ever done Bikram hot yoga, let alone doing Bikram hot yoga in the tropics where it's already really hot. So this is extreme heat. So Bikram hot yoga, if you're not aware of what it is, I don't know what the temperature is. It's high. It's hot. the room's closed, the windows aren't open. It can be anywhere from different instructors do either 70 minutes or some people even do 90 minutes, right? I've done this, numerous times. And let me add to this. I wasn't aware because I had just went to one studio that had it in Thailand, and then I went to one in California, and it was a much different experience because the studio was gross. I was like, ugh. It was claustrophobic. And, well, MC, maybe you can come on the live stream sometime. Email me and we can talk about this because I'd like your opinion. Coach Mac McCarthy at Gmail. Email me. We'll talk about it. Love to get your opinion. Coach Mac McCarthy at Gmail. All right. Yeah, so the Bikram yoga, right? So people are going to be like, oh, what do you mean? So at the end of Bikram yoga, first of all, this might be more information than you want, but when I exercise, for some reason, I sweat a lot. Now, some people, everyone does. No, not everyone sweats the same. I'm cleanly. I'm hygienic. I shower a lot, especially in the tropics, 3-4 times a day sometimes. And yoga, hot Bikram yoga for me at the end, it's a great feeling, but you're I don't want to use the word exhausted, but almost relieved, but in a happy state. But I find myself on the mat at the end, and I don't do this all the time because it takes a lot out of me. Everyone has a different reaction to this stuff. I love hot yoga. I do it 5 times a week. If I did hot yoga 5 times a week, I would be, I'm 6 feet. I'd be about 100 pounds. I just lose too much weight from it. But I enjoy it, and it definitely has an effect. But I'm going to share with you a lot of times at the end of that hot yoga, I find myself telling myself, almost like my body speaking to my mind, and it says, thank you for doing that. Now, people might be like, wow, you like talk to yourself? Everyone talks to themselves in their heads, right? That's you. That's you speaking, right? But I'll have a moment where I'll be like, thank you for doing that. Because it does, yoga, but hot yoga specifically, it does something to release something in there. And so it literally tells me like, oh, this was very good for your body. This was a great feeling. Well, you know what I'd say to that, T-Mac? And I'm just going to add this because I've been a teacher for years. It's just like people go, oh, how could you teach? I could never do that. Or I would hate being a teacher, or I hate yoga. And then the first question would be, well, have you done it before? The second question is, if someone goes, yeah, I did it before, I hated it. The studio I went to is very nice. There was a lot of room in the place. I felt very comfortable. I went to one in California that was packed. It was basically at a strip mall. The ceiling wasn't very high. They used a floor heater. It was gross, and it was packed. There was like 40 people inside. And before the yoga started, I was like, I got to leave. I felt claustrophobic. It was the same title, Bikram yoga, completely different environment with a different teacher, different people, completely different feeling. Think about that. Chew on that. I would say the same thing applies to school. A lot of times people that say they hate school had a really bad teacher when they were young, or had a really bad experience at school when they were young. Seriously. Eric Guerrero, it's been a minute. San Diego's finest. Don't think I didn't forget you, bud. Don't think I forgot you, e.g., downtown San Diego. I remember. How you living? Large and in charge, I hope. We got deep on a topic today. We might have to do a round 2 and maybe have the great MC from England. Come on. I've been outstanding, but there's pockets of time when I'm not so good because that's human. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm doing yoga with Tim these days. So is the channel called I'm Doing Yoga with Tim these days? That's kind of funny. I like doing yoga in a class better. I find that if I do things at home, I'll find a way to stop easily. Life's a kick in the nuts. I think yoga was ancient science to exercise and release at the same time. Like I said, now that I've gone to a couple different places, and I'm not a yogi, but I'd like to be one. I'd like to get better at it. I find a lot of value in it, right? A lot of value in it. It's definitely different at different places. And if you have your first time of yoga and you don't like your teacher or you don't like the environment, you're gonna go, oh, yoga sucks. And I think that's what we do with a lot of things. And that's where if you had a bad breakup, to circle back to my main topics, you got to realize that was just one. Excuse me. It's nature to have bad days. What does it matter? It's the end of your day with a smile. Yeah, but sometimes it's difficult to do that. Someone was just asking me yesterday. We were having dinner, and we were discussing different things. And this individual was talking about some of her. She wanted to talk about. She's had some abandonment issues, I believe, and some different things. And I'm going to do some hypnotherapy sessions with her. So we were just talking about different things. It was funny because we were at a restaurant. She's like, I want to talk about this later. I'm like, not in public. And she goes, yeah. I'm like, no problem. So, but then she asked me the question. She's like, well, what do you do when you have problems? And I was like, well, I talk to myself. And I say, Coach, what are you going to do? Hot yoga is different in different places, my friend. Like I said, I think people are different and they have different reactions, and we all have different bodies. And so that gets lost in things. We have different mitochondria. So how I react to it and how you react to it might be different. And for me, like I said, hot yoga would be one of those things. I really like it, the feeling, but I get exhausted from it because literally there'll be other people that barely sweat and I'm dripping. So everyone's different. All right, folks, I got to cut this one short. Eduardo Martinez, thank you for the donation. T-Mac, always a pleasure. E.G., I'm glad I can take you off the milk carton. Truth of Love, we're going to have to get that show about luck. That's been on my mind off and on. I'm going to have to research before the debate starts, but I'm looking forward to it. We can do that on my channel or your channel. I don't care. Let's get into it, though. I think it's going to be fun. And Chuckster, thanks for the third eye chakra. Thanks, Eduardo. I appreciate you, Chuck. And like I said, anytime you want to get into it, when you're ready to unpack your story, I'm here for you, bud. When's the next live stream? Good question. Probably on tomorrow. I'll make an effort to be on tomorrow. I'm no longer interested in dating, but this topic is interesting. Thanks, T-Mac. All right, folks, it's curtains.